Welcome, everyone. This is the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen podcast. My name is Bradley Anhouse. I am the commissioner and host of the podcast, and this is your debut episode. We are recording this tonight on September 16th, and I am joined by one of our league members, the team name Milfin Cookies, co-owned by Andrew Kraus and John Harriman. How you guys doing today?
Doing good. That is a Kraus team name pick, just getting that out there.
It's been with me since college. I'm not changing it.
We're going to start off our show today. We're going to do a quick league recap just so that everyone knows if you are not part of the league, you can understand kind of what we do around here. We are a 12-team league. We were established in 2012. Our keeper league format started in 2015. Each of our teams keeps 3 players every year. And what's kind of cool about this league, and I want to get your opinion, is the strategy involved of the fact that while a player can be kept 2 rounds ahead, if you don't keep the draft pick, then they move back around. So, for instance, a player who is eligible and was drafted, say, this year in the 9th round is going to be eligible next year in the 7th. But if you trade your 7th, then they're eligible in the 8th. And I know you guys are fans of the possibility of moving back around to keep your guy one round later, I should say. You guys are, I know you're fans of it because you use it often.
Yeah, it was a big strategy for us this year with one David Johnson, who we essentially got as a rookie, and we've been trading back for years with him to keep his value down. And I know he's been up and down over the last couple of years, but because we've been able to keep him at the 8th round tag and now the 7th round tag, it's really helped us go past those years where we didn't have to get rid of him. And now we're starting to see David Johnson back to his 2016 form, and we're thankful that we still have him for 5th round value.
But I kind of just want to talk to you guys about your draft. So overall, as you mentioned, you did not have a 1st round pick. Your first pick was the 2nd pick in the 2nd round, which was Josh Jacobs. But overall, how do you guys feel about your draft?
I don't know how Kraus feels, but I called him the second it was over. And I'm on the West Coast, so it was really late for him. But I called him the second it was over, and I'm like, I don't know how we did as well as we did. Because going into the year, we thought we were going to go full tank mode because Kraus and I, we've won the championship 3 times, but we've also not made the playoffs twice because we usually tank after winning because we know we're going to need that capital the next year. But I'm like, our team is so good now that I think we're right in the mix as a top 3 team in the league because I think we did an excellent job across the board.
I agree. I mean, I think we had a fantastic draft for the capital that we had, and we might be lacking at a couple positions. But having said that, this is the last year that we have all of our keepers that we really want. The keepers that we've had for all these years, our David Johnson, our DeAndre Hopkins. This is the last year we're going to be able to keep them. So I'm more thinking about what's the deal for next year. So if we're going to tank this year, these are all our thought processes going into the draft. How are we going to approach this year?
So reflecting back on the draft, what would you say are some of the areas of improvement that you're going to need to address throughout the year?
I think the biggest thing we need to address is figuring out what is Fournette, what is Kerryon Johnson or DeAndre Swift. We did add Joshua Kelly, who I like a lot, but really I think we're solid in our starting lineup. I think our starters are very solid. The conversations Kraus and I are having is we don't know if they stack up to the rest of the league because you have to understand, as a person who had this, there was teams with multiple 1st-round picks and multiple picks in the first 5 rounds. We didn't have that luxury this year. So on paper, if anyone looked at our team, they would say, wow, that's a great team. But we're in a different league, and that league requires different standards.
One of the areas of concern that I would like to have addressed, and this is for our league, I guess, so, DM me, reach out. We want an upgrade at wide receiver. I think that we have some very good players as far as our wide receiver 2 being DJ Chark or Robert Woods. I don't know how that stacks up to the rest of the league.
And moving on from that, what would you say your strongest position is?
I mean, it has to be our running backs, I'd say, just because I feel like we got a steal in Josh Jacobs. I think we got him so late. And then David Johnson with the keeper value. He looks like the 2016 form again. And then, we have some question marks on our bench. Like I said, our bench is kind of an area of concern. But if Fournette turns into Fournette, that's our 3rd running back. You really can't be too upset with it.
And if you had to pick one sleeper on your team, who would it be?
I think it's the guy that John just picked up, Josh Kelly. Joshua Kelly, that guy, honestly, just keep an eye out for him because this guy could have standalone running back value. I saw the way that he was running. He looks like the actual runner.
Yeah, it does. it's going to be interesting in LA because Eckler is more of a pass catching back. So it is going to be interesting to see if they really go maybe some two running back sets. Anthony Lynn, a former running back himself, I'm sure has a lot of plans for that Kelly Eckler stack.
And also, no one's seen Eckler carry the load for a whole season. He obviously has injury history. So I think it was a smart ad before even the waivers came out. That way we didn't have to fight for it. For me, our biggest sleeper, I think, is Henry Ruggs. I think you got a little bit of a glimpse of what Ruggs could do in his first week. He was running the ball, quick out of the slot. Like, he reminds me a lot of Tyreek Hill as a rookie. And I know Tyreek Hill's values are very much inflated because of the quarterback he has. And I don't know who the quarterback for the Raiders are going to be next year, but I see a lot of that. Get the ball in Ruggs' hands, see what he'll do. So I think, we got him at a very good spot with potential keeper value. And I think, in the immediate term, I think he can solve our wide receiver problems. But in the long term, he can really be a piece for us.
And real quick, I'll just recap my draft. My teaming name again is the Rivers of Babylon. I had the first overall pick, taking obviously Christian McCaffrey. Then I had the 8th pick in that first round, Julio Jones. Second round, 8th pick, Le'Veon Bell. Third round, I had 2 picks again. The first pick, DJ Moore, and then 8th pick, Keenan Allen. No picks in the 4th. In the 5th round, 4th pick, Darren Waller. James White in the 12th pick in the 5th round. Sterling Shepard with the 12th pick in the 6th round. No picks in the 7th round. In the 8th round was Jerry Jeudy at the 8th pick. Then I kept Davante Adams at 12. That's another first-round pick that was able to be kept late.
Can we just recap your 2 starting wide receivers and your number 1 starting running back just for the people?
Of course we can. So my wide receiver 1 and 2 are Julio Jones and Davante Adams. And then my running back, Christian McCaffrey, quarterback, Lamar Jackson.
So I think you're fine.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, the debate on your team is who's the better receiver.
Yeah.
That's all we got to discuss with your team. Who's the better receiver?
Well, we're going to touch upon that later because Davante Adams just went off. 17 targets, 14 catches on those 17.
And I think you can learn a lot from what Krause and I did last year because we were in a similar situation last year where we had 7 picks in the first 5 rounds. And what we did is we took guys who we liked even though it was way too early. That's kind of what you did with Mostert and other guys like that, where it's like, well, you know what? I don't have the picks in the 8th, 9th round, so I'm just going to take guys that I like. And that's kind of how we formed what we consider a super team last year. And obviously we won the league, and it really wasn't that difficult and because we were just loaded across the board. And I think that's the path that your team's going to go on with, staying healthy and everything fine. It's going to be very hard to stack up to your core. It doesn't matter who your bench guys are. Your core is just so solid that it's like, okay, do I even have to make a move? Is the rest of the league going to start trading picks to try and catch up to me?
Pretty
and
much.
That's what Kraft and I did last year. We sat back and we're like, you guys trade your picks. You guys mortgage your future. We know we're solid. And you talked about earlier before we came on, one of our big moves we made was not even a big move. We just got the number 1 defense and number 1 kicker for 11th round pick because we're like, we're solid everywhere else. Let's just improve this thing. And everyone else in the league was just throwing their first round picks away. And honestly, there wasn't one matchup that Krause and I were even worried about in the playoffs. Our team was too loaded.
So we're going to move over to our matchups and recap week 1. And we'll just give you a quick introduction of all the league members. So we'll mention their team name and then their actual name. So we have Juju on the beat. That is Ben Gordon. Rivers of Babylon is myself, Bradley Anhouse. Milf and Cookies are my guests, Jonathan Hammerman and Andrew Krause. Then we have the Trophy Engravers. That is Ryan Schneer. Tebow Warned Us is our newest league member, Eric Strunning. More Than a Thielen is Alejandro. I actually don't know his last name. Then we have Nix89, which is Nikhil Neverkar. Toe Jam and Earl, one of our league members that joined 3 years ago. That's Ryan Barkin. And then we have Jews Rule the World. That's Josh McGolnick. Condition Kaiser is Steve Tadaldi. Nix88 is Jason Gartlab. And then Bend It Like Beckham is Mike Fama and Michael Greenwood. So let's jump into our week 1 recap. So we are standard head-to-head. We have some interesting stats, and we do like points here. So 200 points, while is an excellent week, obviously, is not outside the realm of possibility on a weekly basis. What we do, so we are a 1.1 point PPR. And then some other things that we do have are we have bonuses for running backs. I don't have it in front of me, but we do about bonuses for running backs for 100 yards, bonuses for wide receivers with 100 yards, and we also have a tenth of a point for each quarterback completion. So quarterbacks add up quickly. So we'll jump into our first matchup, which was myself, Rivers of Babylon, versus Nick. Nick's 89. I defeated him 177 to 147. We all knew going into the draft that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, while great, is he a 3-down back?
I mean, I think there's no doubt in my mind. You're not talking about just like a 4th-round pick from the MAC conference, right? Like, you're talking about a 1st-round pick who dominated the SEC for years. Probably wouldn't have fallen that far if he didn't have an injury towards the end of his career at LSU. But for rookies that are in a system, he fits their system flawlessly. And his only concern, as we saw in week 1, was the goal line work. And it's a little concerning because they have some goal line backs there. But even if he gets all of his goal line touches taken away, he's still going to be a top 5 running back this year, in my opinion.
Moving over to my team is the 17 targets for Davante Adams. Now, we know that Michael Thomas is down with the injury. He will not play week 2, most likely. And so my question is, I'm going to go out on a limb here. We know Michael Thomas broke the receptions record, which was held by one of my favorite players, Marvin Harrison. But with the limited amount of receiving options in Green Bay and the amount that we know Rodgers likes to throw the ball, just out on a limb here, does Davante Adams have a chance to potentially break that record again?
Maybe. I mean, listen, Rodgers likes to give the ball to these unknowns, right? You got your Lazard, your Valdez-Scantling, Geronimo out. These people that just keep popping out of the woodwork. Aaron Rodgers likes to spread the ball around. He's not a one guy. He's not a one target kind of guy.
And then on my team, I did play Lev Bell, who played hurt. Adam Gase said, quote, I shouldn't have put him back in with the hamstring injury. I mean, can you start any Jet at this point?
I will say this. Like, Cross and I are both Jet fans, so this is going to hurt. But I told all my friends who every league I've been in, do not draft Le'Veon Bell. And one, Adam Gase hates him. You know this. It's on the record. Adam Gase just does not like Le'Veon Bell. 2, they face the Bills week 1, 49ers, Colts, Broncos, Cardinals with a good rush defense, Chargers with a good rush defense, Bills, Chiefs with an improved defense, Patriots with a great rush defense, all before their first good matchup against Miami. So you're going to have hold on to him for, I think that's 10 weeks until you have one good rush matchup.
I think you nailed it right in the head. It has nothing to do with Le'Veon Bell not being a good running back. You put him on any other squad healthy, he's going to be one of the best. It's just the Jets are just not a good team right now.
All right, so we'll move on to our next team. Juju on the beat, Ben Gordon beat Bend It Like Beckham. That's Mike Fama and Mike Greenwood in our largest margin of victory of the week, 178 to 97.9. The one thing you always got to look at with Bend It Like Beckham is Odell Beckham. Another slow start for him. I mean, is this it for him?
No.
The targets were there for Beckham. You can go, Kraus, but the targets were there.
I agree. That's exactly what I was going to say. He's going to have the ball thrown to him. He's just give it time. He'll put up numbers. I'm confident about
that being said, he's washed and trade him to us because we need a receiver.
Yeah, no, he's the worst.
Sometimes you got to look past the numbers and be like, well, know what? If a couple balls bounce a different way, you're talking about 6 to 7 catches, you know? And in a full point PPR, even if he doesn't do much with those, that will add up and could be a difference in a week.
So we're going to go over to our next matchup, which was Tebow warned us. That's our newest league member, Eric Stroning. He was able to defeat Jews Rule the World, 137 to 128 in a Monday night comeback. Tebow warned us, rostered Noah Fant and Melvin Gordon, who got him over the edge. And what I really like about Noah Fant is he was definitely underrated coming into this year, but he was a 15th round pick this year. One guy that was a very late round pick, I don't have it in front of me, was George Kittle. It's a weird comparison to make, but with Fant being a 15th round pick, is there the possibility that Eric may be rostering the next George Kittle as in terms of a career long keeper at tight end?
I mean, personally for me, Kraus knows this, I do not keep tight ends. I think you can always find the next tight end. As you said, Fant was a 15th rounder. Kittle was a late round pick the year before. I would much rather solidify my core, which is my running backs and receivers. And if I somehow luck into a Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes, I will obviously keep him. That being said, he's going to be a fantastic option.
So Jews Rule the World had the third and fourth picks in our 2020 draft. With the third pick, they took Saquon Barkley. And with the fourth pick, they took Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas now has a high ankle sprain, similar to exactly what Saquon Barkley had last year. And really the question with Jews Rule the World, which is Josh's team, is does he have enough depth? And looking at his team, I don't know that he does. I mean, he did trade for, Stephon Diggs earlier in the week for a fifth-round pick. We will get into that later as to how ridiculous that was. Does he have enough depth to get over this Michael Thomas hump, who may miss multiple weeks?
He has the tools. I don't know if he took Michael Thomas too early. It's easy to say now after he got hurt and he's missing several weeks. But I feel like in this league specifically, running backs are just so important. And with the depth of wide receiver, John and I went in with a game plan, and we wanted to take the running backs early and then go for the wide receivers. Did he reach for Michael Thomas at 4 when he could have had Hellier right behind him?
So moving into our next matchup, More Than a Thielen beat Knishan Kaiser 128 to 111. And what you got to look at with his name, More Than a Thielen, as you would expect, he does keep every year Adam Thielen. And what I do want to look at is Adam Thielen was on pace last year to be a wide receiver 1. He got hurt, but looking at his pace and our league rules, he would have been on pace for 249 points, which would have put him right at the cusp of a wide receiver 1 last year. Do you think without Stephon Diggs and without the targets in Minnesota that Adam Thielen will again meet his expectations and actually be a wide receiver 1?
Yeah, my whole thing about Adam Thielen is what Adam Thielen is, right? Like, he is a wide receiver 1 on any given week. You just got to pick his weeks right. He is an excellent receiver. I think Kirk Cousins is a above average quarterback in the NFL. But I think Stephon Diggs helped Thielen. I don't think him leaving, I don't know if it hurts Thielen more, but Diggs definitely took a lot of attention away from the defense. And they're going to have to replace that with maybe Justin Jefferson, their rookie. But it was a good week 1 for Thielen.
So the next guy I want to talk about for More Than a Thielen is Cam Newton. I think Cam Newton is probably one of the underrated prospects that Thielen has. His upcoming matchups are iffy. He's going to be better off in the second half of the schedule. He does face the Jets twice, obviously, which is always a benefit. And coming down, especially though in the playoffs, just listen to these playoffs. I mean, granted, they do play the Rams in that first game, but if he's able to make it, the semifinals would be against Miami, and then the championship would be against Buffalo.
Unfortunately, is Cam Newton did this, and we're hyping him up. He was the goal line back against the Dolphins. I think it's time to pump the brakes a little bit. He was a great streamer option for week 1, right? Like, if you didn't have a quarterback and Cam was available, he was a great streaming option. But I don't want to see him against the Seahawks. I don't want to see him against the Raiders. I don't want to see him against the Chiefs. Like, there's a lot, even the Broncos, and then the 49ers, and then the Bills, and then he gets the Jets. Are you going to have Cam Newton as your starting quarterback for 6 weeks where you don't really have a positive matchup when you could probably go stream guys like Drew Lock or guys, who have better matchups?
All right, so our next matchup is the Battle of the Ryans. We had trophy engravers Ryan Schneer versus Toe Jam and Earl, Ryan Barkin. This is our closest matchup of week 1. Ryan S came out on top, 145.54 to 142.5. And this is really, I made the joke in our chat. Ryan B lost his week 1 matchup. When does he start selling his team? I'm surprised he hasn't already. I mean, granted, he did sell Stephon Diggs already.
He already started selling his team.
I was going to say he started before week 1. Yep. Maybe if he had Diggs week 1, he would have won.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing is, with our league, it doesn't benefit you to trade early. We have rules in place. We didn't touch.
We have rules in place that don't even let you trade early. I had to veto 2 trades because they were trying to trade draft picks too early.
And so, you can't get a first-round pick right now. You have to wait to go trade for a first-round pick. And Stephon Diggs is a big-time receiver, and there may be a team later that he could have gotten a first for. And what did he get, a fifth-round pick, yep. I think?
And quick correction, he actually did start Stephon Diggs because he did trade him for a fifth, and you can't trade a fifth until after the first week. So he did have to play Stephon Diggs and still lost.
And let's dig into that trade a little bit more. Because did you see the person who was dropped as a result of acquiring Stephon Diggs?
I did
Let's
not.
hear it.
Go for it.
That's the starting running back for the Detroit Lions, Adrian Peterson,
Of course you did.
to a team that is in desperate need of a running back right now.
But Ryan Schneer's team does interest me. His team name is the Trophy Engravers, and the story behind that is when you finish in last place in our league, you are responsible for engraving our trophy, which will be in Andrew Krause's hands. Sorry, John, I'm not delivering it to Arizona. Overall, I don't think Ryan's going to be engraving the trophy back-to-back years, and he actually just on the cusp, 145 points, was the 5th most points in our league. I do think Ryan has a chance this year.
Chance of making the playoffs. Yeah, no, he does have a pretty good setup for sure. There are a couple pieces like Robbie Anderson. John and I were very high on him, and watching his game, you're not going to get those one catch for 75-yard touchdown catches. And what was that noise in the background? You hear that?
All right, car going by. Riga.
That sounded like a UFO.
I thought you were burping. Yeah, no, I was.
I will say this. I did not know the rule about the trophy engraving. I guess that says something about Krause and I's team that we've never even had to think about that. I did not know that was a rule in this league.
We've only had the trophy for 2 years, I want to say.
And Krause and I went back.
Maybe we should write him a note thanking him for writing our name in the trophy.
Yeah, for 2 years in a row. But I will say, seeing Robbie Anderson and Jamison Crowder in the flex is just comical as a Jets fan. Robbie Anderson's a guy I think he has a lot of upside, but you're going to have to pick his spots, right? His 170-yard catch was a quick screen he took to the house. He has that ability.
Right.
But without that, he didn't have a game. So I do like his bench, though. I like Zach Moss. I like Cam Akers. I really like Scotty Miller, it's those are guys that if he does make the playoffs, you may see want to let Zach Moss might be the running back over Nick Chubb towards the end of the year. There's things like that could pop for him.
Fair enough. And last but not least, our final matchup that we'll go over was your matchup. It was you, Melvin Cookies, versus Knicks 88. You guys came out on top, 174 rounding up to 102.74. You guys are the defending champs. Back at it again. You had the 3rd highest scoring week, so congrats on that behind me and Ben. And the one thing that I'm going to ask is what's going on? I see you guys have a bit of looks like a quarterback controversy on the team.
I don't think having 2 good quarterbacks is a controversy.
Who are you going to start?
I think the thing with Krause and I is we like to mitigate risk. So if you're looking at the matchup before the week, we had Tom Brady versus New Orleans or Aaron Rodgers versus Minnesota. Minnesota's a scary defense, no matter how much they've lost. Obviously, we left 22 points on the bench, and that would have put us at 190-ish points, giving us the most points scored for the week. But we knew going into the week what our matchups were, that we didn't need the big-time scoring from Rodgers to win. We had it handily in the bag, so we went safe with Brady.
Probably the best way to put it. We have when we want upside, we go Rodgers, right? Because we know that Rodgers has a ceiling of 45, 50 points like he just did. Brady, you're going to get that 20 to 35 point game. You feel safe putting him in there. You feel good. And we didn't need to take too much of a risk. We didn't need the high ceiling game. I think we knew we had this week in the bag going into it.
So there really wasn't anything positive to talk about your opponent, unfortunately. I don't think he had a pick before round 4.
Like I said earlier on the podcast, Krause and I felt like we had the championship since week 1. We had good depth, so even if we had injuries, and teams tried to chase us, which was rightly so if you think you can win. But when you don't have a pick in the first 4 rounds, you're going to put out a team like this. And he's lucky he's got Mahomes, That can carry him certain weeks. But, when you're starting Tevin Coleman, who going into the game, he may not even play, let alone he's not going to get any touches, and you leave guys with upside on the bench, it's, there's not much he could have done in this matchup.
And, Brad, before the podcast, we were talking about how do we feel about these rules in place that you need to have, 4 picks in the first 5.
Yep.
4 picks in the first. This is a perfect example as to why you need it.
Why we have those rules. Yep.
Why we have because this could have been so much worse.
Yep.
Going into the season. At least he has Patrick Mahomes, right?
Pretty much. So just one thing I really want to look at with league storylines are the current Yahoo projections. We know Yahoo rankings are a little bit off, but their projections are always fun to look at and just see how you're going to stack up. And there's really no argument 1 and 2. It's me, Rivers of Babylon, and then Ben. Both Yahoo has us both ranked at 11 and 2. I was 13 and 0 before the Lev Bell injury. And then you guys in third, also projected to finish 11 and 2.
Why aren't we at the number 1 spot? We're all the same.
I guess they have me scoring more points.
Yeah.
Are we projected 11 and 2? I thought we got like a C+ for our draft.
Oh, we did. But then they played a game.
Yeah. So then fourth is Jews Rule the World at 10 and 3, and then this drop off is insane. So Yahoo again has us the first 4 teams projected 11 and 2, 11 and 2, 11 and 2, and then 10 and 3. Fifth place would be Ryan Schneer at the Trophy Engravers at 6 and 7. So we went from 10 and 3 to 6 and 7. Sixth place, Kadishan Kaiser, 6 and 7. Seventh place would be Jason at 6 and 7, which 6 and 7 blows my mind with that team. I don't think that's going to happen. And then Bennett like Beckham, 5 and 8. More than a Thielen, 5 and 8. Tebow warned us in 10th place at 3 and 10. Knicks 89, 2 and 11. And then in last place, potential trophy engravers would be Toe Jam and Earl at 2 and 11 as well.
You look at that drop off after 4, and it's it's just a projection. I wouldn't tell any of these teams 6 and 7 go sell your teams. Like I said, I have a pretty solid wait 4 weeks to evaluate your team philosophy. I tell Krause all the time, let's just wait, see how it goes. Let's not drop anyone. Let's not try and add anyone too fast.
I don't know why anybody would be racing to trade their team right now. We have these rules in place that prevent you.
And no one should be. So the rules that Andrew's talking about right now is we have a tiered draft pick trading system in place where before week 1 starts, the highest pick that you can trade is round 8. And then after week 1, it opens up. You can trade your 5th round pick after week 1, 4th round pick after week 2, 3rd round pick after week 3, 2nd round pick after week 4, and then after week 5, you can finally trade all your picks with the trade deadline being week 8. So that leaves you about 3 weeks to make these trades. And then again, looking back at our rules is that you, again, must keep 4 picks between rounds 1 and 5, and then 4 picks between rounds 6 and 10. You can do whatever you want with picks 11 through 16. But yeah, I mean, the rules are in place to prevent teams from going crazy.
No, you're right. To my point before, I don't understand the purpose of trading so early as well if you can't get full value for the players. That Diggs trade blew my mind.
Yep.
That he only got 5th and 6th round value. Had he waited a week to see John Brown going down with a foot injury, I don't know how serious that injury is, he would have been able to get a lot more for his dollar.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has different philosophies. You're looking at the standings, and the thing is, what you do the year before affects your year this year. So like I said, when Krause and I were walking to a championship, a lot of teams mortgage their future. And the teams that mortgage their future successfully, aka you, are sitting at the top now. The ones who didn't do it right and were just trying to chase, that's why you see them, sitting so low on the standings. And a perfect example of what we're talking about, though, is 2015, Krause and I finished 7th. That was a very intentional 7th place finish. We intentionally did not want to make the playoffs because we wanted to get the first choice at pick. What did we do after that? We got first place, back-to-back years. So that's what the decision people are going to have to start making is where do you want to be the best team in the consolation bracket? Because, if Trophy Engravers is in the consolation bracket, just on paper, you'd expect them to win, And do they want the first pick next year to where they can probably go get McCaffrey to go dominate for them? Once again, nothing is given, especially injury history with guys on your team could easily, in a year like this when there's no training camp, no preseason games, could some guys go down with hamstring injuries, ankle injuries, quad pulls? You're seeing it pop up all over. So that's why I'm saying 4 weeks, assess, assess your team after 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And even one of these 2-11 teams that are on the standings could be 4-0 after that week. And then you're like, oh, well, now maybe I should contend.
Yeah,
So,
John, you bring up a really good point as to how you should kind of divide up the season and divide it up into quarters. And just look at your team after 3 or 4 weeks and really just evaluate on that.
and be honest with yourself.
Yep.
You know what? You're not going to win every year, It's just a
And
fact.
but what you mentioned that you guys did is exactly what I did last year, which was just be good enough to make the consolation. Knew I wasn't going to be a playoff team, and just dominated. And I remember actually, what year was it? 2 years ago that I beat you guys in the consolation.
Yes,
With
by like
me,
0.5.
Jalen Richard. No, it was by .01.
Yeah, and it was 2018. We got eighth. You got seventh. So it
Which
allowed
meant
you.
that we got the worst pick in the draft as opposed to the first pick in the draft.
Yeah. And honestly, your team looks amazing on paper, but if you didn't have McCaffrey, I'd be like, okay, I'm not that scared.
right?
If that addition of having the number one overall guy, barring injury, with your receivers, like if you had even
Dalvin
a
Cook.
Zeke, a Zeke, you wouldn't be looking as strong. It's making a choice and then executing it and then having the luck to back it up.
And we're going to wrap up the podcast tonight just by looking ahead at week 2. Some of the key matchups, and the one that I find most intriguing is actually your matchup. You guys versus Fama and Greenwood. You guys are actually projected to have the smallest margin of victory. You guys are favored actually by half a point right now.
I don't want to jinx anything or bite anything in the butt. We're projected to win by 0.5. They have Mike Evans in the flex with an 18-point projection. He is a decoy at best right now. So I don't want to jinx anything, but I think the projections are a little high on some of his guys. And that being said, James Conner at 13 against Denver. He may not even have Conner this week. Beckham versus Cincinnati at 15 could put up more than 15, So I don't want to jinx anything. But once again, Krause and I are under the philosophy, this week is a week we go Rodgers. We need those extra points. We're not going to play it safe with Tom Brady.
I really think Bend It Like Beckham. I mean, we went through every single team. Bend It Like Beckham is, even if they're hurt, they're a lot better than a lot of these teams that are just not that good. And without Evans, without Conner, even if they go 0-2, they're gonna be fine. They're gonna be fine. They're gonna have, last week was a fluke. This week they're gonna be consistent at 150. Right? I'm not concerned about their team at all.
And the next matchup I want to feature is Josh versus Ryan B. So Jews Rule the World versus Toe Jam and Earl. Toe Jam and Earl projected to be the worst team in the league versus Jews Rule the World, who we've spoken about. Had a lot of picks in those first few rounds, but losing Michael Thomas and Marlon Mack early, Josh needs to come up and, in my opinion, needs to kind of run away with this game to show that he's still a threat in this league.
I'd put my money on Toe Jam and Earl. Why don't we put that down as my surprise win of the week?
All right.
I don't know. I didn't like Jews Rule the World draft. It just didn't excite me.
And the final matchup that we're going to feature is Alejandro's More Than a Thielen versus Ryan's Trophy Engravers. This is, besides your matchup, projected to be the second closest matchup. And Ryan is expected to just squeak this one out by right now it's 142.48 to 145.42. So almost exactly 3 points, 2.97.
So even with Godwin potentially not playing in concussion protocol and Crowder, of course, being questionable, I look at both of these teams. I see Trophy Engravers. I see Ryan Schneer just blowing them out of the water. This is a poor Yahoo projection, and this is going to be. What were you gonna say?
They have a 23-point projection on Cam Newton. We just talked about him earlier. He's not going to get that cake of a defense this time around, and he's got his guys in there. But do you want Slayton versus Chicago in your flex? No. Do you, it's going to be a tough uphill climb, I think, for More Than a Thielen. Even if Thielen has an amazing day versus Indy.
One thing I will say about More Than a Thielen right now, though, is I can see that Chicago defense scoring more than their projected 8.5 points against that Giant team.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a week for him to potentially go CeeDee Lamb versus Atlanta. I mean, we'll see what he does. He also still has A.J. Brown on his bench versus Jacksonville, which I don't think they want to win, even though they won week 1. So, and he's got Marquise Brown on his bench against Houston. He's got guys that need to get in there. So we'll see. This is where in-season management comes in, but I think Slayton needs to go to the bench.
It's interesting that he has Brown on the bench. I think he started Brown last week, right?
I mean, if he didn't, he should have.
He should have, right? But
He did. Yep. He's Brown scored
He did. He
8.9 points.
Yeah, and I mean,
But
anytime
still-
you see Houston, you should be playing your receivers.
So
Yeah.
now he's starting Emmanuel Sanders.
But remember, Emmanuel Sanders is going to be the wide receiver 1 this week.
Yes, but don't ignore the talent of Marquise Brown. That's my warning. He's not only on a prolific offense, he is legit talented.
Just
I
looking
would
at
say-
Alejandro's got a good let's see here. He got 1, 2, I won't really count Slayton, so 3. So he's got 5 wide receivers for 3 slots.
Yeah,
So it's a good problem to have.
but he's still going to need his running backs to keep up with Chubb and Jones, and that's kind of
Yep.
the problem with that team in general.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us for the debut episode. We will feature another one of our league members on the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen podcast. I want to again thank my guests, Milton Cookies, John Hammerman, and Andrew Krause.
Thank you for having us.